Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me on this day. Today is the 24th of November, 2020. So 2020 is marching its way out of here, but apparently it's not only is it not going softly or peaceably, but it is also taking away something we value most. One of the things that we value most is celebrating Thanksgiving with our friends and our family and our loved ones. And sitting at the Thanksgiving table gives us an opportunity to connect and reconnect with our family members who live far away and who come together to break bread, sort of just breaking bread and talking. But this year, thanks to the Trump virus, we haven't been able, we're not going to be able to do that. So I know a lot of people have traveled so far over the weekend. And now that you're with your friends and family, I know most of us are not wearing masks and we're not going to social distance because it's just not possible. It defeats the purpose of getting together. And so, guess who is coming to dinner as we sit and gather at the table this year? Guess who is coming to dinner? The Trump virus. The Trump virus is coming to dinner. Thanksgiving 2020 will be a very different landscape and a very different way to celebrate a time honored tradition where we pause as a nation to give thanks. Just now, in the past year, just 3 weeks ago, we had an election that we thought, as part of our democratic process, would process and would proceed as elections go. But thanks to others who choose to derail the process and to disenfranchise the voting blocks of Black people and Brown people, they choose to revert back to a part in our history that perhaps is not as savory and not as progressive as we would want it to be. They choose instead to revert back to a time and place when people could not vote. And to vote meant you had to be a landowner. Those were removed. Those requirements were removed. And so now, here we are again. And thanks to thanks to these folks, thanks to democracy, thanks to the goodwill of most people, we see our democratic processes moving forward. So what does it mean? Well, I'm not going to speculate. Today's not the show for that. We're not going to do the political punditry of and the ramifications of what likely could have happened. We all know what could have happened, and we were terrified. We lived through it for 4 years, 4 damn long years, to be honest with you. 4 years of misery, 4 years of uncertainty, 4 years of not being able to sleep at nights because we wouldn't know what kind of America we would face when we wake up. 4 years of uncertainty. And finally, the Trump virus that has ravaged our economy, ravaged our country in the last several months. I keep thinking about businesses and small businesses. I keep thinking about all the small businesses that I supported, all the nail shops, the places you go to get your face done, your eyebrows, your facials, your spa, the spas, places where you go to get a manicure, a pedicure, the places that you go to buy your favorite cakes, right? The favorite stuff that you like, even your local corner Dunkin' Donuts. I keep thinking about those small businesses and those small boutiques that comprise and make up the American economic system. And what is likely to happen from those systems. All my favorite eateries, the places that you like to eat just because the food is good and the people are nice. And I keep thinking about what is going to happen to those places because it is obvious now that the rate at which we're going nationwide across the country, that the Trump virus is going to ravage our communities and rob our citizens and rob us of the love and fellowship of our loved ones. It's clear. So, what is going to happen by the time spring 2021 rolls around? It is quite clear that we're not going to have a rosy winter. We're not going to have a typical winter where people just get the flu and you get a flu shot and that's it. This is going to be impacted by the Trump virus. I was just reading just before I came on air that in Sturgis, South Dakota, remember that? The Sturgis bike rally where they absolutely refused to wear masks and refused to practice social distancing because they were in total defiance because this was all a hoax. Well, Minnesota is now experiencing a surge of the Trump virus as a result of the Sturgis bike rally. Imagine that. So, guess who is coming to dinner? You will have an uninvited guest seated at your dinner table, an uninvited guest who will be walking through the room spreading this sickness, and an uninvited guest who, even after Thanksgiving is over, and we try to return to our lives in anticipation of spending Christmas, you're going to get a text message or a phone call that says, "Hey, I tested positive. I think mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, uncle and auntie, cousin so and so, sister so and so, brother so and so, niece so and so should go get tested because I tested positive." That's one of the worst telephone calls or text messages you could ever receive. I know because recently my daughter was at work and someone tested positive. And I got the text message that I have to go get tested right away. It is terrifying and life changing. But the Trump virus, though the uninvited guest will be at our dinner tables on Thanksgiving. As for me and my house, we're only celebrating Thanksgiving with the people who live within our house. If you don't live here, you can come to dinner here, and we're not going to dinner somewhere else. Why? Because we're not going to invite a super spreader and become a super spreader. So our homes this Thanksgiving are more likely to be super spreader than they are to be a place that is filled with congeniality and love and benevolence and gratitude. That's what Thanksgiving is about, is to give thanks that we made it through another year and we're so grateful to sit down at the table and to see one another and to be grateful that we're still here. That's what Thanksgiving is about, to be thankful that we made it through, to be thankful that we survived all the ravages of life. But instead, here we find ourselves with an uninvited guest floating around the room, ready to not just try to dismantle democracy as they try to do, but also to dismantle the effects on our lives. I say to all of us, while we here at Down to Earth wish you the best and hope for the best Thanksgiving, at the same time, we are mindful. My producer and I, because we spend all year, I should have brought her down but she's not dressed. You know how they are. They're going to do their eyebrows and everything on camera to say happy Thanksgiving to all of us. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We're so very grateful that as a country, we're moving forward to get this virus in our rear view mirror, moving forward to get control of it so that our troops who are serving us, our frontline workers who are on the front line, it's not just the nurses and the neurosurgeons and the respiratory therapists. They're not just the frontline workers. What about when you go to the grocery store? People are being brave to come out to work. People are being brave to stand behind a plexiglass to still ring up our groceries. People are being brave to go and unpack trucks so we can get our delivery items. What about the FedEx guy and the guy from UPS and the Amazon delivery driver? And what about the USPS, the postman who is faithful every day of the year to come out and make sure that we get our deliveries, and even in our rural communities to make sure we get our deliveries? I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the election poll workers. Even now in Georgia, we're still having a presidential recount because one man's ego just cannot accept that he lost. Dude, you've lost. Give it up. I know you don't care about us, and you certainly don't care about America. That's much assured. And if you don't care about America, why do you want a recount? Just for your ego to say you're not a total loser? Well, guess what? Being a loser is being part of life. If you've never lost anything before, ask Joe Biden how to handle that. He ran for president 3 times. This is the 3rd time and this is the only time that he's been successful. So go and ask Joe Biden how to handle losses. Sometimes failure is not what it is about. It's the lessons that you learn. Okay? Be thankful that you got 4 years to serve. You didn't do a good job. You left the country. You robbed the country. You ravaged the country. You destroyed the country's reputation internationally. All the bad things you could put off, the only thing that you did was give your rich friends a tax break. That's the only thing that came out of it. And if that's what you got out of it, okay, keep it moving. It's over. But for the rest of us, we want to sit down and say thank you for, because of you, thanks to you and the Trump virus, we're going to have to sit at tables and do Zoom presentations of dinner. It's going to be interesting how others respond to it. I was seeing some stuff floating on my timeline about MAGA supporters being so angry that they've stopped watching Fox News. And I'm like, did Fox change? Has Fox changed in the last 4 years? Like, did they just stop broadcasting the lies that they have told? Fox was the spewed more vitriol and destroyed America's democracy more than any other on news station. They should be held accountable and should be sanctioned. And now their own supporters are abandoning them. So Fox did an about turn when they realized the wind was blowing. That doesn't mean that you get away with it. They should be sanctioned. Just as thankful that they don't find Fox News as entertaining. That means they'll go elsewhere and manufacture the news as they see fit. Isn't that normally what people like that do? Yeah, they make up stories, they manufacture news because of their threats about the election. This appears to be the most secure elections we've ever had. How many times are we going to count in Georgia? I think there should be a limit on how many times a vote is counted. If I were a voter in Georgia, I would file suit against that. You ain't counting my vote so many times. And talk about purging democracy. They're purging people of Georgia's voter rolls. That's Brian Kemp's specialty. Because he doesn't want that. They're so, my God, their grip on power is everlasting. They want power so bad, they do not care whose lives they destroy. They don't care, but the rest of us do. So, people, please do not gather for Thanksgiving. Have a virtual Thanksgiving. It is not what we want. It is not what we would like to have. But these are the times that we live in. And in order for us to be here next year, there will be another Thanksgiving. Let us not gather. Let us do virtual presentations. It is not safe simply because the Trump virus is the uninvited guest at our dinner table. I want to say thank you to all of you also who have listened to our broadcasts this past year. I want to say thank you to everyone who has participated and to everybody who has stopped by and listened. Thank you so very much. We have enjoyed a good year. Thanks to all of you. And I want to say a special thank you to those of you who comment on my timeline. Thank you so much for that as well. I appreciate that. Your participation is encouraging and it gives us a breath and gives us a pause to reflect on the content of our programming. I also want to say thank you to God, not only who is the head of my life, but to thank God for being here and pray his continued blessings and guidance and protection on us as we navigate these very trying times. The coronavirus, the Trump virus, is real. It's not going away. It, as much as I wanted it to, it's not. It's going to be here for a little while longer, but we're going to have to pull together to get it to work and to get. So please observe social distancing. Please wear a mask around people who do not live in your household. Please wash your hands as frequently. I know my hands are dried and my skin is chipped. I've gone through many tubs of Vaseline in the last several months, just trying to keep my hands from not feeling like paper. I've washed my hands more frequently than I've ever washed them in my life. Please keep hand sanitizer in your cars. When you go to pump gas, wear gloves. Make sure you use hand sanitizer when you go to the ATM, that kind of thing. And I know you're still with mom and pop and grandma and grandpa. I know you're still with them for Thanksgiving. I don't know how else to ask you to wear a mask or to social distance. It's virtually impossible. But I am going to ask you when you do come back, go get tested, all of us. I really would like us to be intact, not for the inauguration, but I want us to be intact because it's good for us to have our relatives here. It's good for us to be able to pick up the phone and mom answers when you call and dad answers. It's good for us. And so I'm asking you all, whilst we continue to celebrate Thanksgiving, we'll be off air for the remainder of the week. Thank you so much, everybody. I do ask you to please remember to avoid the Trump virus with everything in you. That is the uninvited guest at our dinner table. Thank you so much, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Be blessed.